Welcome back, ladies and worms. I read 5.5 books. I'm saying a half because this top one is tiny. I read 5.5 books in May, and I would love to talk your ear about it because I love to talk and I also love books. So, let's do it. Let's start off with Home is Where the Bodies Are by Jeneva Rose. I pre-ordered this. It came out end of April, I think. I pre-ordered it, so it came just in time for May. It was my first read of the month. Let's look at this cover, okay? Is this not absolutely stunning? And normally, this is funny because 5 out of the books I have here are all hardcover, and hardcover is not my favorite because I don't love dust jackets. This dust jacket is beautiful. But the hardcover is actually just as cool, if not a little bit cooler. I am just in awe of this book. Normally you have a cool dust jacket and then you just have a black hardcover, and I get it. But this is cool. This is unique. So this is the second book from Jeneva Rose that I've read. I read The Perfect Marriage, I think in February. It's very true crime thriller, that kind of mystery type books that she writes, and I'm a huge fan. I had such a good time with The Perfect Marriage. It wasn't perfect, but nothing is. I really don't expect any book to be perfect. This one, I think I gave 4.5 stars because I just had such a good time. And compared to some of the books that I read, it's quite thin in comparison. But that does not stop this author from creating an entire world, an entire story, wrapping it up so that I don't have any questions. I don't feel like I was lacking anything. We get straight to the point, and it's a good time the entire way. So the gist of this book is there are 3 siblings. They're a little bit of estranged. The oldest daughter, she lives with her mom in the small town in the house that they grew up. While she's kind of in hospice, on her deathbed, and so she's with her up until the moment that she dies. She kind of had moved back in and was taking care of her mom. Their dad left years and years and years ago, kind of up and abandoned the family, and they never really knew why. So she's just taking care of her mom. Her little sister's a drug addict. Her little brother is some type of businessman. He's really successful. He's done well for himself. The other 2, not so much. So she's with their mom up until she dies, and her mom's last words are your father didn't leave. Don't trust them. It's very ominous. It's what the heck? And so the other siblings come back kind of to plan the funeral and say their goodbyes, etc. It's awkward, broken familyness, which I love. I have experience in. And then they're going through boxes in the attic, and they come across a VHS that I'm not giving anything away because this is literally the gist. While going through their parents' belongings, the siblings stumble upon a collection of home videos and decide to revisit those happier memories. However, the nostalgia is cut short when one of the VHS tapes reveals a night back in 1999 that none of them have any recollection of. On screen, wow, this is why I don't read out loud. On screen, their father appears covered in blood. What follows is a dead body and a pact between their parents to get rid of it before the video abruptly ends. So dad's gone, mom's dead, and now they have this 20-year-old confession basically that's what do they do about it? So it's a really fun and interesting ride. I love the premise. I love, this is just entirely everything I would want from a book, from a TV show, from a movie. This is right up my alley. And as a fan of true crime and things like that, it's very inspired and a great time all around. I love that it's, you get to see glimpses of chapters from each of the perspectives of the kids and even from the parents back in the 90s. So it's just very compelling and a very good read. I really didn't have any problems with it. I had a great time with this. And again, let's just admire this gorgeous book. It's a VHS tape. Are you kidding me? It's beautiful. And then if you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you've already heard me talk about it, but I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame back to back. Could not put it down. I couldn't put these books down. And I will say, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing, but maybe not. I bought the black jelly cat. That reminds me of the black dragon in this book series. I also have the gold one that's downstairs. Like, no regrets. This book series has become my entire personality. I am 100% a fantasy girly through and through. I'm here for the tropes. I'm here for the predictability. I'm here for the enemies to lovers. I'm here for the slow burn. I'm here for the tension, the banter. I'm here for all of it. And I, having been like such a fan of like How to Train Your Dragon and just like, oh, Narnia and like all of those things growing up really equipped me for this world. And I had such a good time. Let me just try and let's separate the two. Okay, let's separate them. Fourth Wing is the first one. This is what I mean when I say black books, boring. Whatever, dust jacket, it's fine. The inside is what matters, truly, and that's all I care about. What to say, I gave both of these 5 stars if it wasn't obvious. I was really enamored, and like some of that is like bias. Like I'm not rating these from any kind of literary standpoint or anything prestigious or anything like that. I'm like, did I have a good time? Hell yeah, I had a good time. I had a good time the entire time. It takes place at this college where you can be a scribe, you can be a healer, you can be a rider. So those are people that are riding dragons. And our main character, Violet, her mom is like the leader of the rider quadrant of this college. And so Violet, first of all, I think number one reason why I love this series so much is that our main character Violet is chronically ill. She has something called EDS, which I'm not going to try and pronounce because I'm going to butcher it. And I am also someone with a chronic illness. I don't have EDS. I was tested for it and I have something similar. I have POTS, I have endometriosis, and I have who knows what else. But I have a lot of issues. And so I was really able to relate to this character and just her sheer determination to get through life and to get through every single day. But anyway, her siblings were trained to be dragon riders. Her mom is like kind of the head at the the Dragon Riders quadrant. Thank you, English. And Violet is chronically ill. She's got a lot of pain and a lot of things like that. And so her father, who was a scribe, trained her to be a scribe. And so she always thought she was going to be a scribe. And then her mom is like, nah, honey, you're going to be a writer. And basically like forces her into this college, which by the way, the college does not give one single care whether you live or die. Like the tests and the things that they have to go through, like even just to get into the school, are designed to kill you. So she makes it through miraculously. Her older sister, who has been through it and has graduated and is like a writer working, is like, hey, be super careful because there's this guy named Zayden on the other side. He's like he's 2 years older or whatever. He's in his last year. You're in your first year. Our mom killed his dad. So like, he wants to kill you. Be careful. And what does Violet do? She falls in love with him, as one would. But he also falls in love with her. This is our enemies to lovers, okay? And it is one heck of a good time. And I am obsessed. I don't know if I can say anything more about this without giving it away. And I guess that kind of negates me from talking about this too much without giving away, because this is the sequel. It does end in a cliffhanger that I have found the internet's not super happy with. What do you expect? It's good storytelling. Cliffhangers usually aren't good. So of course we're left in a not so good cliffhanger. It's like, what's gonna happen next? How else are they gonna sell the third book, which is coming out in January, which is far too far away for my liking. Because as I have mentioned, this has consumed my every thought. But you know what I love most? I love female protagonists with chronic pain and chronic illnesses. And that may be like a super niche thing because it's something I can relate to so easily. But I just love that even in a fantasy novel, we can have accommodations for people with disabilities. Violet's bones are very fragile. She's just a very fragile person. And she has a really hard time staying on her dragon. And so they give her a saddle that she can strap into so she can stay on her dragon, which is not something that like any of the other riders have. And it's not seen as like a weakness or a disadvantage, but it's simply an accommodation. And again, as somebody with a chronic illness who has lived in this world that is very much for the able-bodied, this is incredible. That even in a fantasy novel, we can have accommodations. And so I really love that. Rebecca Yarros, thank you for writing about women with chronic issues who are still just so strong. So strong. I'm such a huge fan of these books. Next, I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. I think I'm saying that right. Mellors? Mellors. I don't know. Mellors. It sounds a little bit fancier. I did do a reading vlog on this book and I gave my initial thoughts. In that video, I gave this book a three stars because some of the subject material was not personally for me. It's nothing on the book itself. It's nothing on the writing or the author. It was that some of the topics were like a bit much for me to handle. And now that I've had some more time to stew on it, I think I can comfortably give this book a 4 because I've been thinking about it a lot. This is a book about a couple with about like a 20-year age gap. She's 24 when they meet. Yeah, she's 24, Cleopatra, and then Frank is in his mid-40s. So there's about a 20-year age gap. They get married. Well, they meet and then within like 6 months they're married, and it kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It goes through the effects that this marriage has not only on these two characters, but on like everybody in their lives, their friends, their family, how it kind of impacts them. This book takes place in the third person, so it's not from like any one character's perspective, but different chapters focus on different characters. And one of my biggest praises for this book is that this author knows her characters so well. And that sounds like such a funny thing to say about books, because when you're writing a book, you obviously know your characters. I was just so surprised by how easily these chapters could flip between focusing on different characters, and just like how well they just slipped right into who is this character, what are they doing, how are they feeling. Like, it didn't feel like there needed to be any character building or any world building, which sounds funny to say about a book that's not a fantasy book, but there was no world building or character building in a sense of like, what you see is what you get. This is the character. She knew them so well inside and out, and I really admired that because it just felt like I was catching up on people that I already knew. It was like, yeah, this is where they're at right now. It's like, oh yeah, cool, good to see that. And I don't know, I just found that fascinating in a way that I haven't read a book that's kind of brought those feelings out. I don't think ever. I teared up several times. I think if you're going to read this book, I would recommend, but also like, please look up trigger warnings. It does deal with things like suicide and alcohol addiction and a lot of things, not a lot, but sexual identity, gender identity. Like, there's just a lot of really heavy topics. And that's why I kind of was like, when I finished reading it, I was kind of taken aback and I was like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Some of these topics were just a little bit hard for me as a reader. But now looking back, I can say like, this was just a really hard-hitting book. I thought it was really beautiful. I'm really excited to read more from Coco Mellors. This is, I think, her debut novel. Yes, it says a debut novel. So I'm excited to read more from her because I'm just so intrigued by the characters that she creates. But this was a really good book and a really good story. Okay. Last but not least, I read Powerless and therefore Powerful. And this is why I'm saying 5.5 books, because tiny, with comparison, tiny. But this is the hard thing, is like, a book is a book no matter how small. I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. There are definitely books out there with 150 pages or 100 pages. Like, it's weird to say that this is like half a book, because like, this is an entire book. It's a little tiny thing, but it's a book no matter how small. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, at first, obviously, I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and what did I give this? What am I gonna give this? How many stars? I literally just finished it 2 days ago, so I haven't rated it yet. What did I say? I told my friend I was giving it 3 stars. Maybe I'm gonna give it 3.5 now. And I have so many thoughts. So first of all, Lauren Roberts is 22 years old. This is her first novel. Assuming that she's now 22, she wrote this when she was younger. And I don't mean this to sound like condescending in any way, but it felt very young. And of course, it's YA. It's young adult. And unfortunately, like, I am 27 now. So maybe I'm phasing out of young adult. I don't want to. I want to hold on. I want to hold on forever because it's so fun. Maybe that's just what it is that the person who wrote this book is so much younger than I am that maybe it just felt a little young. But at the end of the day, I had a really good time with this book. I really enjoyed this book. I can tell that there are a lot of tropes and a lot of ideas that the author would have gotten from other novels. This book is very much about trials, which is very Hunger Games coded. There were like scenes and phrases and certain things that I was like, that came out of A Court of Thorns and Roses, or like I could just tell that there was influence from other authors and other book series. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because we all draw inspiration from things, but they were noticeable and I didn't love it. I don't hate it, but I didn't love it. So that's what I'm gonna say. I had a good time through and through. I did think the banter, the kind of slow burn is really good. This is YA, so there's no spice or anything like that, and it's not needed. The banter and the tension between our two leads is really good. It is, again, an enemies to lovers. This is a world in which there are people known as the elites, so they have magical powers and abilities, and then there are the ordinaries who are born ordinary, you guessed it, and the king is like, oh, these ordinaries are diseased and they're going to take away the elites' powers. Like, their lack of ability is like leeching away our ability. And so years and years and years ago, he was like, kill them all, get rid of all the ordinaries, like wipe our planet from them. And anytime there are new ones that pop up, he gets rid of them, he takes care of them. And so we meet our main character, Peyton, who is an ordinary. She poses as a psychic and she's very good at it. So nobody in kind of the poor area of the kingdom notices. She's able to get by. The king's son, Kai, is, what do they call him? A wielder. So he can kind of adapt to anybody's ability that's around him. So he's kind of like all powerful. He's like the cool guy. The king isn't allowing like any other wielders to exist because he's like, my son is the only one. He's going to grow up to be the future enforcer. So as of right now, he is killing those who are ordinary, as the king demands it. And so I forget why they have the trials. It's basically to, I don't know, it's a fun time, but it is very Hunger Games coded. The rich people watch as people battle to the death in different series of trials. There are differences from the Hunger Games, obviously politically, as well as not everybody dies in these trials. It's more of like, you could die, you could be killed, but also you just have to win to be the winner. And if you don't win, but you're still alive, like you're still alive, it's fine. So through a series of events, Peyton ends up in these trials and the king's son, Kai, is also in the trials, kind of just to, they're setting it up as though like, without a single doubt, he's going to win. He's the king's son. He's the future enforcer. It's kind of just showing off his power and showing off his ability to be the best of the best. They end up in the trials together and they slowly fall in love, which I'm here for. I love it. I love love. And then things happen because obviously they're falling in love, but she's like, oh my gosh, if he knew what I was, like he would kill me. He would want to kill me. His dad would make him kill me. So that's what the kind of enemies to lovers situation is there. It's good. I will say that this book ended differently than how I ever expected, and I am looking forward to the sequel, which brings me to Powerful, which is book 1.5. It's a novella. I would still call it a book. This book is about Peyton's best friend. So she and her best friend live together in like the poor part of the kingdom called the slums before she's taken to the trials. And so this book is about her best friend while she's in the trials. So she's living in the poor area by herself, etc., etc. It's just a short little story, a very sad little story. What would I give this? I would probably give it 3.5 as well. They can just share the 3.5 spot. I finished it in 2 days, and yeah, it was a good time. Those are the books that I read in May. I cannot believe it's June. I have many more books to read. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to me ramble. I'm gonna go now before I talk a little bit too much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.